I'm going to ask instead is, we know you've said you don't want to be in politics, but you've never told us why you don't want to be in politics.
Well, frankly, I'm not quite sure I've figured out why myself. But I'm very clear I don't want to be in politics. I'm very happy living my life the way I am. I think there are certain aspects of politics which I am just not suited to.
You're saying that from experience, from having seen a lot of it?
Yes, from having seen a lot of it. I mean, there was a time when I was a kid, when I was about 16, 17, where I thought that this is absolutely what I want to do with my life.
Really? You were excited by it?
Yes, but I think I wasn't very clear about my own identity.
When did you know? When was that moment when you knew for sure that you would never be in this profession?
In 1999. Because at that time, in that election, it was a question in my mind whether I would want to stand for election or not. So I did some thinking and I realized that I didn't.
And since you identify it as such a definitive moment, what was that moment for you?
Actually, I went for Vipassana meditation. I was so troubled by the fact that I couldn't, I didn't know my mind, so I just disappeared and went for 10 days of meditation. So I better know what my own mind is rather than what other people want of me.
No, but did something happen in 1999 that made you decide that?
No, it's just introspection that happened.
You know, the assumption from afar is that Priyanka Gandhi doesn't want to be in politics because she's devoting all her time to her family, to her kids. So then the next question becomes, when the children grow up, maybe then.
But they used to see, this question for me has existed since I was 14 years old. When I first came to campaign here even, these things were said about me, that I would be suited to politics and I look like my grandmother and I am like my grandmother. And I have to say that I think, because you're asking me what really was the definitive thing, I think it was a growing up thing rather than an epiphany. It was really a slow process where I grew into myself, where my own identity was a bit confused because I did idolize my grandmother. I grew up in a household where she was the head and she was an extremely powerful woman. Not only politically powerful, but she was a powerful human being, to be around. So being a little girl and seeing this woman who was strong and, stood for so much, it did have an effect on me. So I think my own identity was confused until a certain point. And when I discovered that, hey, Priyanka's actually this, then I realized this is not for me.
As simple as that.
It wasn't simple, I can tell you.
It was a deep conflict at one point.
Of course it was.
I liked what you said about the life is too complex to ever use a word like never. And the media sort of took that to mean that maybe tomorrow, maybe when the kids grow up. But you seem to suggest that in a moment of internal resolution, you settled this question once and for all. Is that correct?
I think so, yes. And when I said one should never say never in life, I really meant in life. I didn't mean in politics, I meant in life. Because as you grow up, you realize, that there's a lot of things that you're very rigid about when you're younger. This will never happen to me and I will never do this and I could never be like that. And as you grow up, you become a mother. Every day you're faced with something new, and you have to respond to that thing. And you realize that your responses change as you grow up. So you can't just be absolutely rigid, black and white and say yes and no to things. That's what I meant.
Sure. But what is the definition of being or not being in politics? Because you may never contest an election.